Hey everyone, Carl Pradelli here. Just recorded a really cool episode with Erik Kenison from Nutriscience talking about elderberry and specifically their really unique, and what I think is the best elderberry ingredient in the supplement world called ElderMune. Really important stuff here on what you need to look for and what you need to avoid when it comes to elderberry. Check it out. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Nature City Podcast. I'm your host, Carl Pradelli, and I'm also the CEO and co-founder of Nature City, having started the company over 20 years ago with my wife, Beth. And since then, it's been our pleasure to have served over 500,000 Americans by offering them the best supplements we can make. As we head into the heart of the winter, the cold weather months, certainly immune health is of heightened interest to many folks. So today we're going to be talking about one of the most popular immune health ingredients in the supplement industry, which is elderberry. We're fans of elderberry, but you have to be careful, and there's certain nuances if you really want the benefits of elderberry that you need to pay attention to. And we're going to break that all down today. And to help you and to help us with that, we are joined by Erik Kenison. We welcome Erik back to the Nature City Podcast. Erik is from Nutriscience Innovations, who supplies our favorite elderberry ingredient called ElderMune, which has some unique characteristics and properties that we're going to discuss. So, Erik, how are you today?
I'm great, Carl. How are you? Thank you for having me back here. I think this makes me a reoccurring guest by now.
You are. You're now, I guess, a veteran. So, thank you very much for coming back.
Absolutely happy to be here and excited to talk about some ElderMune.
Absolutely. But before we get into ElderMune specifically and what makes it unique, which is a lot, why do you believe elderberry has become really one of the most popular plant-based ingredients when it comes to supporting immune health in supplements?
So elderberry has a long history of use for immune support and other health benefits. Humans have been using elderberry for more than 2,000 years now, and it's often referred to as an herbal medicine cabinet, if you will. Even prior to COVID, the use of elderberry in dietary supplements was on the rise and growing year over year at a significant pace.
Yeah.
Elderberry is a botanical that's been subject to a lot of clinical research as well. And since 2019, there's been over 10 clinical studies published on PubMed per year. So there's a lot of clinical research going into this ingredient.
Interesting.
Yeah, and these benefits, alongside the historical use, are both likely reasons to why it's such a popular choice and why it's a botanical that's very closely linked to immune health. On top of all that, it's unique because it's a botanical that's been clinically studied in both adults and children and proven to be safe, when most botanicals are typically tested on adults only.
No, that's definitely something that's pretty unique in our industry. But one of the challenges for consumers, and this applies to all products, all ingredients, not just elderberry, is being able to determine the quality of the ingredients in their supplements. Right? That's a big challenge. A lot of times, people don't have a lot of information, don't know where to get good information, and they're not sure about the quality of the products they're putting into their body. Now, the rise of elderberry's popularity has created a new challenge, right? We're seeing a lot of, call it fake or counterfeit elderberry in the market. What are your perspectives? What's your perspective on this?
So this is something that Nutriscience has been dealing with for a while now, since we launched ElderMune.
Yeah.
Especially during COVID, there was a lot of adulteration in the elderberry space. I don't think that that's a secret within our industry. There's a lot of unscrupulous suppliers selling just about any sort of purple powder that they could find, trying to take advantage of the short supply situation.
Yeah.
During this time, a lot of finished products on the market were third-party tested and were found to be adulterated. They were found to have contaminants, contain less actives than they were initially claiming, or even some of the worst offenders didn't even have elderberry in there at all. Unfortunately, COVID provoked this type of unethical behavior, and the consumer confidence kind of negatively was affected by that.
Yeah.
But during this time, Nutriscience took additional steps to verify the authenticity of every lot of ElderMune going out into the market, conducting HPLC fingerprint testing to confirm that every lot contained biomarkers only specific to elderberries.
No, it's great. And it's you're right. This adulteration or counterfeit elderberry, fake elderberry, I call it, has come in many forms, right? You see some of the bad actors essentially giving, basically, giving people black rice extracts instead of elderberry, right? And if anyone in the audience is curious why someone would do that, well, genuine elderberry costs up to 30 times more than black rice extracts. So there's a pretty big financial motivation. So if you're seeing a product that looks like it's, pretty low priced and probably cheaper than other things out there, sadly, there's a good chance you're not getting authentic, real elderberry. We've also seen, Eric, we've seen people actually use purple dyes, right, to make it look like elderberry when it's some other botanical that may even have polyphenols and anthocyanins that are important, but they're not the elderberry polyphenols that have been shown to produce, the immune health benefits.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So so how do you, just to restate, how do you get the consumer comfortable, or someone like Nature City comfortable that ElderMune is genuine and we can count on the same quality from batch to batch, year to year?
Yeah, so it certainly brings up a good point, because like you mentioned, there are some products out there that may have contained polyphenols but were being pawned off as elderberry. One instance that comes to mind was with blueberry powder. That was something that was happening a lot, because it's naturally rich in polyphenols and it's not too far off from the color of elderberry. So anyways, Nutriscience takes some great steps to validate the authenticity of our elderberries. So we use only the Hochberg variety of elderberries, which are grown in Europe. And they're the most highly sought after type of elderberry, or variety of elderberry, for their immune benefits. And every lot of ElderMune is verified to contain only elderberries, like I mentioned, by the HPLC fingerprint testing. The HPLC testing that we run follows the USP method, and that shows us positive identification of 4 cyanidin glycosides. ElderMune is also non-GMO project verified and available in an organic form as well. So just as some additional certifications for the authenticity of the product.
Absolutely. And, we touched on it a little bit, but when it comes to the compounds in elderberry that provide, the immune function support, look, and this applies not only, forget the counterfeit or, adulterated elderberry, but even if you do have something that's legitimately elderberry, you have to be concerned about the content, the polyphenol content within that extract. We often hear about the powerful anthocyanins in elderberry, which are very important, but that's just part of it, in my opinion. The other polyphenols, in elderberry, are also needed to get really the full-blown immune function support that you're looking for, as nature made it, right? I mean, nature put these other things there for a reason in most cases. Do you guys, Nutriscience, share this perspective?
Yeah, we absolutely agree with that. And I think that that's a big portion of the ElderMune story. You're right. Anthocyanins are polyphenols, and anthocyanins are not the largest active compound contained within the elderberry plant by a long shot. There's different types of polyphenols contained within elderberry, and that includes flavonols, phenolic acid, and proanthocyanins. Because ElderMune contains all of these polyphenols and the anthocyanins, it's a much more full spectrum elderberry product compared to others ingredients that are solely extracting for anthocyanin content or something like that. And we were able to validate the positive impact of these collective polyphenols through an in vitro trial that we ran on ElderMune. And we were able to show that the 100 milligram dose of ElderMune was able to inhibit 3 immunomodulatory cytokines, TNF alpha, interleukin 6, and then IL-1 beta. And this was by an average of 40%, demonstrating a positive immunomodulatory effect by including not only just anthocyanins, but all of the phytonutrients contained within the elderberry product. So to wrap that all up, it's certainly important to have, more of a full spectrum, a whole food approach to an elderberry ingredient.
So the first tip for our audience is make sure you're getting genuine elderberry and not something like a black rice extract or some blueberry or other thing that's dyed purple. And the second is to make sure you're getting the full spectrum of the elderberry polyphenols to maximize or optimize, I guess, the immune system benefits that you're seeking. Is that fair?
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. And it's sometimes hard for the consumer to recognize, certainly companies will not be upfront if they're adulterating their product, but more so, it's very hard for the consumer to identify which product is specifically going to be rich in polyphenols. Often when I see a supplement facts panel for an elderberry product, it's simply going to list elderberry extract or elderberry powder. And that's, it makes it very hard for the consumer to tell, how concentrated that product is or what the product could be standardized to. That's why that's why quality ingredients are really important to Nutriscience. And that's why we're very transparent with Elderimmune and what's inside. We're transparent about the 65-1 concentration, the standardization of polyphenol content, and a complex designed to improve the digestibility. That a few of those things are what a lot of elderberry ingredients fall short on. And then all of this helps Elderimmune produce or deliver a much more potent dose of elderberry in a very small dose.
You hit on a lot of interesting features there that I want to spend a little more time on. The first really, which is really unique to Elderimmune, is you actually pair the elderberry powder, and I want to call it the high potency elderberry powder because I think that's really what it is, with your Sunfiber prebiotic fiber. Why, that's again very unique. Haven't seen anyone do anything like that. Why did you combine the two?
Yeah, it certainly is unique, and there's a great reason behind it. So as typical with all sorts of fruit juice concentrates, Elderimmune needs to be dried onto a carrier in order to be converted into the free-flowing powder that it is. So the elderberry juice concentrate, as you might imagine, it's a 65-1. It's very concentrated and can be very sticky on its own. It would be very difficult to use in any sort of liquid format or even, any type of dietary supplement delivery form. It would be very tough and sticky to work with.
Sure.
So in order to make Elderimmune a free-flowing powder, we utilize a low heat UV drying process. This process allows us to protect the sensitive polyphenols and anthocyanins damaged by heat throughout the manufacturing process. And we also chose Sunfiber because it's the ideal clean carrier and it's allergen-free. It flows very well on machines, so our manufacturers like it. And as a clinically researched prebiotic fiber, we also know that it has additional health benefits beyond improving the digestibility of the elderberry nutrients. On top of that, like I mentioned earlier, any sort of fruit juice concentrate is going to have to be dried onto a carrier in order to be converted into a powder. So other ingredients on the market would typically use something like a maltodextrin.
Yes.
We chose not to do that because it can present an allergy or a GMO concern.
Absolutely. Maltodextrin is a starch, for anyone who's not familiar with it, and certainly using, the Sunfiber is a lot more valuable than just using a starch essentially as the carrier to create the final powder. So, but I think there's more to the story than that. It's not just a better, it's just not a better nutrient. I think, by replacing some of the fiber that you lose during the juicing process, it helps, maybe with the absorption of some of the key elderberry compounds, these polyphenols we were talking about, that really provide the immune health benefits. Do you have any sense at all how much, adding the Sunfiber may help?
Yeah. So of course, during, the development of Sunfiber or development of Elderimmune, we looked at it both with and without the Sunfiber. And what we found was a small but statistically significant increase in the inhibition of TNF alpha and interleukin 1 beta due to the presence of Sunfiber. There is also a significant increase in antioxidant stability with Sunfiber scavenging nitric oxide. So it indicates that Sunfiber in Elderimmune plays a role in improving the digestibility and the absorption of the polyphenols and anthocyanins. And this is likely due to replacing some of the natural fiber that was in the elderberry plant that was lost during the juicing process.
Absolutely. As we said, nature often puts these nutrients together for a reason. So I think replacing some of the lost fibers is definitely something that we found attractive. Another another key differentiator with Elderimmune is, and you touched on it a little bit, but how the elderberry fruit extraction is done to maximize, the potency and retain, I guess, as many of those key polyphenols as possible. But, so I'd like you to touch on that, but can you also just tell us where does the elderberry fruit and Elderimmune, come from, and, anything noteworthy about the farm or anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to touch on that before we get into the extraction process. But like I touched on, Elderimmune is comprised of only the highest quality of Hochberg variety elderberries, and we have full traceability back to these farms. The farms are located in Poland, Hungary, Austria, and Sweden. This is generally the only area where the Hochberg variety is grown. And the Hochberg variety, for those who's not necessarily an elderberry nerd like I am, it's a little bit bigger of a berry than the European black elder, but still has a great taste and all the same health benefits as well.
Yeah, you don't see too many elderberries in the supermarket around here anyway, so.
No, you don't really see it up here in New York either, even at the organic ones.
So, and as you said, I know at Nature City we use the organic Elderimmune, which is, obviously is non-GMO, but I think you also have the non-GMO verification for Elderimmune also, which folks are interested in. So let's, really talk about a little bit about that extraction and drying process you use for the elderberry powder, and specifically how it results in a more nutrient-dense, I guess, final elderberry ingredient.
Sure. So Elderimmune is a highly concentrated 65-to-1 concentrate, like I've mentioned before. It takes 65 kilos of fresh elderberry to produce 1 kilo of the elderberry juice concentrate, while other products on the market are typically going to be as high as 10-to-1, with some being much lower than that. This allows us to deliver much more nutrients from the elderberry plant than are typically found in most elderberry ingredients on the market today. Also, because we're using a specialized concentration method, we're not losing other phytonutrients like you normally would with a more selective extraction process. This way, consumers can benefit from a wider nutrient profile similar to the whole elderberry fruit itself.
Yes.
Rather than just specific anthocyanins or something to that effect. I also already highlighted the low heat drying process. That's another aspect of Elderimmune that helps provide for a more potent elderberry product. The temperature throughout this process is controlled to help preserve the polyphenols and anthocyanins, which are very sensitive to heat. And then on top of all of this, we utilize a cold pressing process to concentrate the juice. This allows more of the elderberry nutrients to be carried into the juice concentrate and then ultimately into Elderimmune itself.
Interesting. So to sort of put this in perspective for the audience in terms of what this means for them, I mean, obviously they're getting more of the key polyphenols, anthocyanins, which are important for their immune health support. Can you, quantify it all? Like how much more typically you could expect, like with the organic Elderimmune that we use at Nature City compared to other things on the market?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say that the consumers taking the Nature City product are at an advantage because our organic Elderimmune is typically higher, comes in with higher results on the polyphenol content than compared to our conventional Elderimmune. Both are standardized to 3%, where the conventional comes in typically very close to right above that number. And then the organic material, those results are closer to the 6% number. While other products, typically, if polyphenol standardization is quantified at all or mentioned at all, it's not terribly common to be standardizing for polyphenol content. It's going to be closer to about 1 or 2%, at least from the products that I've seen on the market today.
That's a big difference.
It really is, especially when through the data that Nutriscience has conducted and, brought to the market, it really shows the story for how the polyphenols are really driving the immune benefits that people associate and are associated with elderberry.
Absolutely. So, again, just to summarize here, because there's a lot of interesting things you've been talking about, we have this very highly concentrated organic elderberry, Elderimmune ingredient that is, the elderberry is actually concentrated at a 65-to-1 ratio compared to, what's more common in the marketplace, which is closer to 10-to-1. So you have a big difference there. You have in the organic Elderimmune, up to, I guess, call it, I don't know, 4 to 6 times more polyphenols than you would probably get in many elderberry extracts. And again, we're talking about legitimate elderberry extracts or elderberry powders. And then to circle back to the importance of the Sunfiber that you couple with the elderberry, you also, instead of using maltodextrin as a base, by using the Sunfiber, it helps get these higher levels of elderberries, into your bloodstream during digestion, so they can really help support you with immune health. There's a lot of wins there. You agree?
Well, there certainly is. I mean, there is a lot to tell about the story of Elderimmune, and through the great job that my team did with developing this ingredient, there's a lot of unique benefits that make elderberry or Elderimmune itself such a great ingredient. And I think that one of the biggest features and benefits of Elderimmune that we haven't really touched on at all would be the fresh fruit equivalency. And it has the highest fresh fruit equivalency on the market today. And what I mean by fresh fruit equivalency would be the 100 milligram dose that's in your product is equivalent to about 4.22 grams of fresh elderberries, which is about 28 elderberries or so. So in one dose of your product, which I know contains much more than just Elderimmune, you're getting 28 elderberries right off the bat there, or something that would be equivalent to that.
It's interesting. I had not heard that before. Why haven't you shared that before, Eric?
I must have shared it in some of the documentation.
I'm teasing.
Yeah, so that on top of, having a whole fruit concentration product and, not focusing on one specific portion of the elderberry, it provides for such a more concentrated product that is a more full spectrum approach. And I think that really benefits Elderimmune, along with what you just mentioned, the improved digestibility with adding Sunfiber, the unique manufacturing process, and then also just being such a highly concentrated product itself.
Absolutely. So we covered a lot of ground here, Eric. Thank you so much. Is there anything that maybe we didn't discuss about Elderimmune that you'd like to share?
Yeah, we definitely covered a lot. I squeaked that last part in about the fresh food equivalency, which I wanted to. But one more thing that I did want to add, which is very important to me, I would imagine it's important to our consumers as well, is that although the elderberries are grown in Europe, they're flash frozen and then sent to the United States, where Elderimmune is then processed and produced. So Elderimmune is very much an American made and tested ingredient.
No, it's a really good point. I mean, there's great care. It's pretty clear. It's great care you guys have taken, really, from where you source the material from, where you source the fruit from, how you process it, and obviously the finished product. You've really put a lot of thought into really every step of the process, which is why the final product is superior, in our opinion, to other things in the market. So one thing I did want to ask Eric, obviously I mentioned at the outset, we're more tuned into immune health during the cold weather months and seasons. But, one of the things we talk about a lot in Nature City is immune health is really a year-round kind of thing. It's not just for, when the temperature goes down. It's really something you have to be mindful of, throughout the year. Is Elderimmune something that you can recommend for year-round immune support?
Oh my gosh, absolutely, yeah. Even though we're more prone to getting sick during the colder seasons, than others, it's still very important to support your immune system year round. You're going to benefit from taking Elderimmune year round rather than waiting until you think you might need some additional support when it's probably too late to reap the full benefits of the product. So I always say it's better to be proactive, especially with your immune system. In addition to that, Elderimmune, the polyphenols in Elderimmune and Sunfiber that's in Elderimmune have some additional digestive and skin health benefits as well.
A nice bonus.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's, look, I mean, I think some of the audience has heard me speak about what's really one of my favorite supplements, which is our Truberry 7 drink powder. And we had, when we initially formulated this, we had a lot of great things for cognitive health, for cardiovascular health, for joint health, for some skin health applications, making us look and feel better. But one of the things we really were missing was this immune health support, and we added Elderimmune in the last couple of years to Truberry 7 to really round it out. And it's one of those supplements that there's so many reasons to take it. Even if you eat a lot of fruit, I eat a decent amount of fruit each day, but just the importance of all these different polyphenols. And as we mentioned with elderberry, even though there's nothing wrong with blueberry polyphenols, but they don't provide the immune support or nearly as the robust immune support, right, that you get with elderberry. So all these different fruits and the different polyphenols do different things, which is why we combined 7 of the best in the world together for you in Truberry 7. And as Erik mentioned, we use the organic version, so you get the highest potency of Elderimmune, the most polyphenols. We say, Erik, taking 100 milligrams, take one serving a day, which, as you mentioned, has 100 milligrams of the organic Elderimmune, is great. I really try to recommend folks take 2 servings a day to get the full benefits of all these fruits, which will give you 200 milligrams a day of Elderimmune, which I surmise you think is a good amount, in your opinion?
Yeah, absolutely. So the 100 milligram dose is a standard and certainly effective dose, but you can absolutely benefit from taking a higher dose of 200 milligrams of Elderimmune, especially during the cold months when we're all prone to getting more sick. I'll go back to the in vitro trials that I mentioned earlier about the immunomodulatory inhibition. We did look at different doses during that trial, and we did notice a dose response, meaning the more you took, the more inhibition there was. So absolutely, you will see greater of a benefit from taking 200 milligrams opposed to just the 100 milligram standard dose, which, by the way, is completely proven to be effective. There's just nothing wrong with getting a little bit more elderberry and digestive fiber in your diet. And, it's also something that you can take in larger doses because Elderimmune is solely elderberry fruit and plant fiber. There's nothing more to it. So both of those are safe and larger doses.
Absolutely. And folks, that's why we think Elderimmune is the premier elderberry ingredient for supplements in the market, and why we featured in Truberry 7. Erik, look, it's been such a pleasure. Thank you for making time for us. And again, really enjoy working with you and all the folks at Nutriscience. And, if you're interested in Truberry 7, you can find it at naturecity.com. So, Erik, thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. We really appreciate your partnership and hope to see you soon.
Absolutely. So, folks, that's it for this week's episode. You can subscribe to the Nature City podcast on YouTube or listen to us on your favorite streaming services. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. You can also sign up, join our email list at naturecity.com. You'll get alerts every week when a new episode drops. And, that way you'll keep on top of the latest and greatest findings in the supplement nutrient world. So that's it. This is Carl Pradelli, and I will see you next week.